What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Matt Reynolds, and today we aim to misbehave because we are talking about one of the most famous short-running series of television of all time, that being Joss Whedon's early 2000s masterpiece, I would say, Firefly. Now, to let you guys know, when I was sort of scheduling out this show, obviously this is just our second episode. Thank you for checking into episode 1, by the way. I have a bunch of topics I have in mind and guests I want for those topics. For this topic, there was only one person that I wanted to bring on, and that is, you know her from the Schmodown. She was just recently in the draft. You can also find her all over Gucci Universe. She's talking about an extraordinary show, which I actually really love, and you made me get back into watching, which is Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. It is Rachel Silvestrini, everybody.
Sorry, I love to hear the roar of the crowd. Hi, Maddie. I miss you.
I miss you too. So we're talking about Firefly. So first off, I gotta let everyone know, this is my Malcolm Reynolds, as close as you get. For the audio listeners, you can't see it, but you should really check out the video portion of this podcast, which is on Take 3 Productions. I wear my Malcolm Reynolds shirt. I tried to wear my suspenders, but unfortunately, I'm not in a chair. I'm sitting on a bed, and that's not really easy. But I have my dog tags of Sergeant, and of course they're not showing up on camera. There we go, Sergeant Malcolm Reynolds from the war days. Because I love this show, and Rachel loves this show, and I am so excited to talk to this. So, Rachel, the first question I have to ask you is the same question I ask all of my guests in regards to the topic we're talking about. What was your introduction to Firefly?
Oh God, it was so long ago. I honestly can't remember a time when I wasn't deeply, deeply in love with this show. I mean, it came out in 2002, so I was a senior, or I was just out of high school at the time. I know, I'm old.
No, I was gonna say it just shows the because in 2002 I was 5.
Children. I think it was one of those shows that like a friend of mine was like, "You have to watch this," and I was like, "All right," because it's like I was like, "What's it about?" They're like, "It's basically like space. It's a Western in space," and I'm like, "All right." And then I saw a picture of the cast, and I was like, "This is a really attractive cast. I will have no problem watching this." And that goes across genders because, good Lord,
We'll talk about that.
And yeah, and then I just fell into it, and like it just from the very first moment you meet this crew, like it's just like I think I fell in love with Kaylee first. Just I saw a lot of Kaylee in me. And then you just get introduced to each character, and each character is just as fun and like sassy and like rough around the edges. It's like it literally reminded me of like a tour bus, and that's what I did for a living back then. And so it was just this like I was like, I know these people. Like these are my people. I want to be a part of the Firefly crew because I think it would be amazing.
Okay, so for me, and of course because I'm a horrible guest, I'm not looking at your face. It's because I had a thing set up for this later on. Oh, the wonders of this stuff, isn't it? So for me, I'd always heard about this show. This show was always it was one of those, like, you always heard about it when you're talking about like, oh, the best like shows that were canceled too soon, all these things. And the big thing that I remember this from was this is going ways back when Veronica Mars did their Kickstarter for the movie of a new season. I remember hearing about that, and a bunch of Firefly fans wanted Joss Whedon to do a Kickstarter for a new season of Firefly. And that was really the first place I heard about it, but I never checked out the series. I think just because it was one of those things to where, like, obviously when I was younger, like, streaming is not like it is today, and, you know, tracking down DVDs and stuff, particularly for smaller shows, cult shows like this, it's not always easy. It's not like if you want to watch Cheers, you can find like a box set of Cheers literally anywhere.
Yeah.
But I have Hulu, and our mutual friend Pat had convinced me to watch Scrubs, of which I did and loved it. And I was getting to watching the end, and obviously, now how I binge stuff, it's just like I go from one series to another. So I was like, next, and I started to look in the like Hulu recommended page, like stuff you should watch, and the show Firefly popped in, and I read the description, and I looked at some of the images and everything. I was like, okay, like I kind of remember this, like science fiction western. I love sci-fi. I grew up. I was a weird kid. So I would be in middle school, in not middle school, I'm even farther back in elementary school. I would wake up at like 6 a.m. every day. I wasn't going to school until like 9, but I was up at 6. And I want to say from like first or second grade until like late into middle school, every morning, Monday to Friday morning, the first thing I would watch in the morning on Channel 34 TV Land was Bonanza. That was what I started. And I grew up, my grandfather, my grandfather was, he was the classic grandfather from the Greatest Generation. World War II vet. He loved anything with a cowboy hat. So like then growing up with him, when he found out that I watched Bonanza, he turned me on to Gunsmoke and just the Clint Eastwood movies and John Wayne and all this. So I just have grown up with a love of Westerns while also being obsessed with Star Wars. So I was like, all right, I got to check this out. So I watched the first episode, which is a mini movie essentially, and I was just hooked. And I watched this, it was Labor Day weekend, this past Labor Day weekend. That was what I did my entire weekend, was just binging those 14 episodes. And then the following week I watched Serenity. And I got the show on Blu-ray and Serenity because I'm a physical media person. I have watched Firefly since that first binging, like, I kid you not, like 10 times.
I mean, I'm not shocked. I am a little shocked that it took you this long to discover
you and Firefly. Everyone else.
But it's one of those things that, like, I've started a few years ago. I started like when people told me that they hadn't seen something, instead of being like, oh my God, you're an idiot, I'm like, oh my God, you get to experience this for the first time as an adult. Like, oh my God, you get to be conscious of everything that's going on. So it's like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm a little jealous, but I was still technically an adult when I watched this for the first time. But you also like watch it that first time watch, and like that falling in love feeling, like you can never recapture that. It's more of like a revisiting and looking at pictures of past loves that you're like, that was a really good time in my life. And that's what Firefly is for me, is going back and being like, oh, it stirs up all those old feelings. It just makes me so happy.
I agree. And I think that's the same thing that I feel as well, which is that you have these shows and these things that, like, I kind of wish I had gotten into Firefly earlier. But I'm kind of just glad now that, because if I went my whole life without this show, that would have sucked. Because this show was just like legitimate, like I told you guys, growing up with loving Westerns and Star Wars, it's just like, this was the show and it's so funny, like I had said, I mean, I was 5 when the show aired. It's like, this was the show I always wanted growing up. Like, if they could take like Star Trek and Bonanza and Star Wars and just like melded together, only to find out that like someone did that. Like, someone had already made it a thing. And I'll say this now, and I'll hold true to it to my dying day. Firefly did with 14 episodes more than some network TV shows do with like 7 seasons.
100%.
Like, legitimately, like, you get, like, there is not an episode you can delete, because even an episode that you think is bullshit has some sliver of something extremely important for at least one character, even then multiple characters that you just can't get rid of. But that leads us into an interesting, I think, first talking point, which is the characters. Do you have, I'm going to ask you this, I'm going to ask you to pick babies. Do you have a favorite character?
I mean, like I said, I think I identify with Kaylee. Just that whole like rough and tumble kind of gal, like never really the romantic lead, just super sassy, does what she does really well. But I think as a favorite, like, don't get me wrong, I would love to be more like Gina. She is like, I would love to be Zoe. Zoe, I think I have a strong streak of Zoe in me, but I think my favorite is Walsh. Alan Tudyk, like, I love him so much. He's just so wonderful, and he brings like this beautiful like levity to the show. Like, even if shit is going to hell in a handbasket, he's there with his little plastic dinosaurs playing on his dash. And you just can't help but fall in love with that character. He's also like, it was also one of the first times I'd ever seen a male character actively take the beta role in his relationship with a woman and be totally okay with it. Nobody gives him crap for it.
He would even admit it himself at times that like he's the bitch. Like,
yeah,
he was no problem.
He's like, look at her. Of course she wears the pants in this family. I will willingly wear a skirt. Like, not even a kilt, a skirt. Like, he was so ahead of his time for character development. I think that like I wish that the series had traveled on more. I mean, spoilers, we all know what happens to him. But like,
we'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you want to see me cry on camera? I get it. Yes. But like, he's just such a strong character, and like people, like men back then in the early 2000s, like it was still considered like a weakness and stuff. Like it was very like bro mentality. But like, he showed that vulnerability and like being able to admit not being in charge as being a massive strength. And also, like, who wouldn't want to be Zoe's beta? Oh,
I mean,
God.
I love Walsh as well, and I think when it comes to out the lineup, there's a character that I relate to the most. It is him, because I am nerdy, emotional, and all those things. But with his character he is that, and he does take the role of, you know, just like not being superior to his wife and not doing that. But then you get like episodes, particularly that episode when him and Malcolm are trapped on the ship, and Zoe comes in and pays for him. He's the first one to be like, let's gear up, we're going back for him. Like, when he needs to turn that on, he has that gear. It's just, he's surrounded by Malcolm and Zoe, who are these brown coats from, you know, this failed civil war, and particularly Malcolm, who took that loss and it just destroyed a part of his soul. And he's surrounded by Jane, who is literally this gun for hire, that they're just lucky that they have the money that he's on their side. And then you have, like, you know, and that's the main crew. Obviously, you get, you know, more people added on to that. But just out of that core crew, he has to maintain the levity on that ship, or else it would just be like the most somber, depressing place to step onto. Like, they would never get a job without Walsh, because if he was not there keeping them lively, they're screwed.
Yeah, basically. I mean, anything Alan Tudyk does, like, I just am so
he's one of those guys that's just like, anything he touches is kind of gold. Like, even like just small parts and like knocked up. Like, he's great. Tight.
He plays Hey in Moana. Like, this man voiced a fucking rooster in a Disney movie. Who does that? And like gets and like emotes? What the hell? Like, I adore him, and I think that everything he does is magic and wonderful. I mean, he's Steve the pirate.
Yeah.
Like,
hey guys,
how do you not love this guy?
I love him.
You a pirate?
If there is one character that is my favorite, it's Malcolm Reynolds. I think, and again, this is the funny thing of, like, I kind of wish I had seen the show earlier, but I've been very candid about when I was a freshman in high school, how seeing Lethal Weapon for the first time, Martin Riggs was who I wanted to be. This is that same thing. This is just something about the first time watching this. You just see these characters that just embody everything you find cool about Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Indiana Jones and like all these characters I grew up with. And but there's something that stands out about him, that he has this streak of sarcasm and all this. And also what I love about Malcolm is and you see it so much throughout the series, and particularly in Serenity. In a way, it's a wall he puts up, because when he gets pushed, that wall falls, and you see it when Jane pushes him about how many men did you lose. And then, Anira, when she's like, I've seen all your sides, and he's like, when you see me in a true war, you'll see a side you ain't never seen before. Like, all this stuff. And that's what I love about his character, is that he could be very depressing and just like shut down mentally, but like he's kind of in his own way found this strength to sort of keep carrying on being who he is, and he's not opposed to making, not the best decisions, but there's always that thing about him, which is like, and you see it again so many times throughout the series, which is like he just genuinely cares about people. And that's why he fought in the war, because he did not think that the alliance was right for the world. And that's why he helps out these tiny nations, and he helps out the Anira's friends on the planet. Like, he just continually throughout the series and in Serenity just does these things when they're really actually kind of not to benefit him, because like it's getting him on the alliance's bad side, but like there's just something about him. I mean, there's even that great moment when they're talking about Jane, but Anira thinks that they're talking about Malcolm, where she's just like, yeah, he's like Piggy, and then they mention Jane. She's like, wait, what? But yeah, speaking of another character I love, that relationship, and that's the other reason why I hate that the show didn't go on longer. There was so much more between those two characters.
Oh,
that
of course
we were
there
denied. I mean, the fact that we never got to see them officially kiss on screen.
No, I
is
you know what? I honestly, like, I think that, and I'm always one for being like, close your fucking loops, make all the stories like tie every loose end. But I think that like the way that it ended, it was just one of those things that they knew they would never last in the long run. But they had such intense feelings for each other that like it was just. I think it was just the perfect way, because like once those two characters kissed, it would have been a relationship drama, and and that's what the series would have revolved around. But I will say this about Captain Mal: he is one of the most damaged, cynical, bitter, snarky characters, but he has the biggest heart. Like, his heart is so giant and scarred. Like, that's why he has the crew he has. Like, no matter what they say about Jane, like, he does care about Jane. Like, as obnoxious and, sometimes misogynistic as he can be.
No.
I know, right?
Jane?
Not in a Western. Like Captain Mal, like, deeply, deeply cares about every single person that he allows on his ship, and just like he is like the dad. And I think that I don't think that anybody could have played Mal better than Nathan Fillion.
I agree. There's those perfect castings that exist, and that's one of them, to where you're just like, if someone else is in this role, I'm not. It's kind of like, we lucked out that George Lucas changed his mind about not casting people he used before, because Han Solo would have been a different character if you did not have the wit and charm of Harrison Ford in there. And actually, it's funny you bring up the fact that if they had kissed, it would have been a relationship drama. I should kind of compare that to Han and Leia. I've always said their relationship peaks at the carbonite chamber before it gets put in, because once you come back in Jedi, like, it is that weird, like, they're in a relationship. It's not as strong as an Empire or a New Hope, to where it's like they're bickering, they're this, and then they finally kiss and all of it. Like, when you get the Jedi, it's just like they're kind of a little bit too lovey-dovey. That is
because you want the tension, you want the drama, which is why I don't like their relationship until the current sequel. Like, when that like they've parted ways, they still love each other. Like, every time they interact, I mean, first of all, I just sob like a crazy child anyways. But like, that's the relation. Like, that's like, I don't like watching people be happy on TV shows, I guess. Like there's so much more to it when they're bickering. I mean, like, unless you take, like, unless they're like the established, like, older couple.
I mean, there's couples that it's like, I mean, I'll just say it, like, there's The Rock and and Adrian's and like the Jim and Pam. So I'm like, I love that they got together and we actually got to see
Right.
them together. But then there are those ones like I actually do think Mal and Anira fall into that to where it's just like them having that bickering. I mean that's one of my favorite like exchanges dialogues is from Serenity when they had all been watching and Zoe and him are just like it's a trap. It's and they're like, wait, what? And it's like, you guys were listening, right? And it's like, yeah. It's like, did you hear us arguing at all? No? Yeah.
It's just the show is so perfectly written and so perfectly cast that I'm like I said, I'm glad that they didn't kiss. I love
Well, they
that
technically did.
tension.
Well, she kisses him. She kisses him in Our Mrs. Reynolds.
To be fair, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, my favorite moments is she sees Mal, she thinks that something like seriously horrible has happened to him, so she like kisses him, and then she calls him, she's like, oh, you son of a bitch. And then when he comes through, she's just like, yeah, I saw you passed out. And then I slipped and fell. They're like, what happened to you, Mira? I just adore the interplay. And there's another character talking about interplay with Malcolm. I love Shepherd Book. Their relationship is so pure and just like just this preacher and this guy who, again, there's one of my favorite small things is that in the opening scene of the pilot, you see Mal with his dog tags and he pulls out a cross and kisses it. Mm-hmm. And then throughout the rest of the show, like he does not have, when he talks to Shepherd, he's just lost his faith in God. But there's that great thing, and we finally, sort of get solidified in Serenity in their last scene, which is like, Book is not looking for Mal to he doesn't need him to believe in God. He just wants Mal to believe in something. And Shepherd Book sees and pulls something out of Mal, which is, he's like, I know you don't believe in God, but you being who you are, you definitely have a belief in people. Mm-hmm. And that relationship is so sweet. And I love the two of them together.
Yeah, I like I said, Mal is the most damaged. Like, he's seen the most shit. Like, it's all blurring into one giant and beautiful story in my mind, so I can't remember if it was Serenity or Firefly that had happened, but you see the battle. I think it's Serenity. You see the battle that he and Zoe fought to surrender, and like
that's the opening scene of the pilot when he's trying to call in, and then they say that they're throwing down arms.
Young boys around him that he's like commanding over, dying, and you can see like the faith coming out of his body.
Oh well, when the Alliance ships are coming in, they're laying down their guns. That shot that they have, Nathan Fillion just without words is just like, everything I believe in is a lie right now.
Yeah,
like.
There's nothing good in the world. There is no God. Yeah, you can see that in his face. And like, but because he has such a big heart, like, that like the Shepherd Book is like, you don't lose faith. You just get bitter.
Yeah. I mean,
you just get angry.
And you see that because like with Simon, like there are so many times throughout the series that he could throw them off the boat and it would make his life so much easier, but he doesn't. And when Jane tries to screw them, you have that scene to where he's like, you screw a member of my crew, you screw with me. And then even in Serenity, when he does kick them off, when she has her freak out in the bar, he literally picks her up in his arms and carries her back to Serenity. Like, because that's just who he is. And also, like, I mean, after he kicks him out, Kaylee says that line to him, he just has this look of like, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And speaking of, we probably should, we've mentioned him like several times. Adam Baldwin as Jane is just so, you hate him, but he gives you so many times where you're just like, I hate you, but I also love you because you are so pig-headed and stupid that if you were less of that, you would be more lovable because you do have something in you.
I think the character of Jane is that annoying, obnoxious toddler that just pushes you to the limit and being like, I'm going to kill this fucking child. I do not like this child. And then all of a sudden they do something amazing and wonderful and you're like, oh, okay, you can live another day. Like,
I mean, Jamestown is that's just the episode to talk about that with.
he has these amazing shining moments of like heart and caring and love, and you're like, oh, why can't you be like this all the time? And then you realize that the love of his life is his gun.
I mean, it's just this scene with the kid who takes the bullet for him in Janetown, to where he's just like, why'd you do this? I'm not who you think I am. Like, why did you do this? And it's so, in that episode, the way it ends is just like this notion of just like, they just, even if you weren't who they thought you were, those people just needed to believe that was someone like that out there.
Yeah. And you have to do something that they interpreted as good.
And that's why I've read like articles and all this stuff, and some people say like, oh, well, you could have cut that up so it's not. I'm like, you cut that up so you lose so much of Jane's character. Like, so much of his character is lost if you cut Janetown.
You can't cut Janetown. Also, you have that great moment of them drinking their bread and getting sloshed.
Oh yes,
with Kaylee and Simon in the bar, and it's just drunk Kaylee is kind of amazing. She's like that lovesick like 14-year-old that is just like, that's what she turns into.
And Simon, I love him the morning after when he's just like, oh, no, nothing happened. Oh, nothing happened. Like, their relationship I also love, to where he's just so like, because that's the world he comes from, is like, I mean, I from like Starbucks world. Let's be honest. Like, that's the world he came from. And so like, to him, it's like, sex before marriage is not good, Simon. So like, this whole thing, he's like, I really like you, but like, I'm not programmed to do things like Malcolm or Jane do it.
No. Simon is no shining virgin figure in this. I think that he's just incredibly respectful, and I think that that's how he was raised. So he didn't want to, like, you know, make it seem like he was taking, like, he wanted her to know that he respected her.
He
like,
wasn't taking advantage.
Which is great, but like, girl was revved up and ready to go. Like, knows. Like, it wasn't like she was just acting on something that had popped into her head. Like,
that's literally the thing that causes her to fight for survival and serenity, is when he's like, you know, like, if we would have had time.
Are you kidding me?
Oh man, man. Let's talk about Jane. One of my favorite lines is from the episode Shindig. It's when they're trapped, and he's like, we gotta come over with distraction, so he could get naked. No, we're not gonna do it. I could get naked. Like, just Adam Baldwin's delivery in this show is just incredible. Where he's just like, I could get naked. Which, actually, speaking of which, that could lead into, we could talk about, if you have any favorite episodes. We already talked about Janetown, but if you have any other favorite episodes that you want to talk about.
I mean, how do you not love the train job?
As my second favorite. I literally did my list of my top 5, so that's my number 2.
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I can't pick because they're all so good, but like, every episode has something amazing about it. The War Stories episode was phenomenal. You get to see Mal and Wash just like at their bare bones, just like, because they're not very close, because, you know, Zoe was Mal's second and everything. So like, if Mal needed anything, he'd go to Zoe. And like, but you see this beautiful relationship between the two of them over like the woman that they both love in very different ways. Yeah.
Like, one, it's like brother-sister love, and the other is husband-wife. Like, that's very clear what it is.
Yeah, it's brother-sister, like, commander, soldier type of respect and admiration and like familial love. I mean, how do you not love trash? You get to see Nathan Fillion's cute little tushy. Heart of Gold is so fun.
And I can't believe that's one of the episodes that was not aired.
Really?
Yeah, so on my Blu-ray, it because only 11 episodes were actually aired, and it tells you which episodes were unaired. Heart of Gold was one of the unaired episodes. And I go, how do you not air that episode? Like,
how?
It has trauma. Like, you have Anira finding Mal the morning after, and her breaking down in the room by herself after like trying to like show Mal that, oh no, I don't care. It's action packed. It's like freaking everything great about this show, and they didn't air it.
Dude, that Inara's breakdown after she finds out that Mal had sex with her friend before, like the night before the fight, is one of the most heartbreaking. Like everybody needs to have a cry like that every once in a while. You just need to like crack your soul open and cry, and that's what that was. And it was done so reverently.
And I think what is so great, and we talked about Mal and Nira's relationship, is I love that, to me, that was the breaking point of just every moment she's wanted to tell Mal how she feels and act upon her feelings. That was the moment to where it just all cracked, and she really just like realized that like if she doesn't speak up, he's a guy, he's going to act upon these things, like
right,
and she's gonna have to like deal with that. But that was just her break. Why did I say I didn't care? I should have told him I cared.
Yeah.
Like I should have said like, God, why is this such a well-written show that only lasted a season? Screw you, Fox. I mean, I heard that Fox, they didn't even air the pilot first.
No, they aired it last, I believe.
And I watch, like, having watched the show in the order, that pilot is everything you need. It introduces you to the world, to the characters. It is one of the most perfect setup pilots ever. That it's just like no wonder why this show got canceled. Everybody watched Train Job not knowing who the hell anyone was.
Like you had no emotional investment in any of these characters. You didn't care. It was just this really cool world that like you got dumped into. Whereas, yeah, you definitely needed the pilot first. I mean,
and that's the thing. I Train Job is one of my favorites, and I think Train Job is which is funny. It's only the second episode, but I think it's the most pureness of what that show is, to where it's just like it's them doing a bad thing, because they are stealing from the Alliance and all this stuff. But then it has the heart. It has the heart to when they find out that it is meant in all this, they take it back, and then you have the moment to where the guy's goons show up, and just like that scene to where Malcolm's like giving the money back, and that's it. It's done, and the dude's just like, no, he just kicks him into the engine. Oh. Like, just no questions about it. He's like, all right, because he's like, I'm not stealing medicine from these people. I'm not doing this. When I thought we were just screwing over the Alliance, great. But now when I find out we're screwing over people, and you have so many great moments of like Mal and Zoe trying to pretend that they're a married couple, and then when Anira comes in, just like she slaps him and just like, this is my manservant, and your husband's gonna be very upset with you.
I mean that this is like, I just love that Mal gets a "this is Sparta" moment, and just like you feel that boot to the chest, and like he is gone in a blink of an eye, just like boom.
And then the next dude's just like, yeah, the money. No, I get it. It's cool. It's all right.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I will, yes, whatever you want, sir. Like, it's just so perfect.
I mean, I think that moment is only rivaled by the moment in the pilot when he shoots the horse and he just goes up and he takes the bag of gold, and it's just like, I do the job, I get paid. Now go back to run your little world. It's so great. But my favorite episode, which has probably my favorite Malcolm Reynolds moment that isn't in Serenity, which it's Shindig, is my favorite episode. And it's the moment when he's talking to that asshole dude and he says, no matter how you dress her up, she'll always be up. And he just doesn't even let him finish and just knocks him in the face. And then like, I just love he's just like, perhaps this is my kind of party. But it's the moment right after that where he's like, all right then, it's settled. We'll do it, whatever he says. And he's just like, good. What? Like, he just like agrees to this fight without knowing any of the parameters. I was like, all right, wait, what?
Yeah. He's like, we're gonna duel. What?
It's my favorite episode because it shows so much of, I mean, you get a lot of great stuff like Kaylee, like her with the dress, and then the like
dress for her that she was like heart eyes emoji
and then,
in the window. It's so,
she wears that dress and all the bitchy 1%er girls are making fun of it. And that whoever that guy is, I love that old rich man who just comes up and is just like, I hear it takes, probably 20 more to get you out of that dress. Like, and he's just like, I'm sorry, I can't abide rudeness. And then she's with all of them and she's just like schooling them on engineering. She's like, yeah, the XP, it's actually just the X11, just with a new paint cover. And you're just like, oh, I just love that episode. But yeah, and you get so much great stuff with Mal throughout it.
Well,
that is my favorite.
Not only that, but we also get the amazing and god of the nerds Mark Shepard as Badger in that episode.
Yeah.
And like, Mark Shepard is not one to be taken lightly. He is in everything.
Yes.
And he is great in everything.
Well, is also where my favorite Jane line comes from. I could get naked. And then at the end, when Malcolm shows back up, and they're just like, we had this whole plan. Shepard was going to be the distraction. We were coming to get you. And after the sword fight, he just has the sword. He's just like, you have to kill him to leave him there, bleeding dead. That would just be insulting. He's just like, well, maybe I'm the better man. He just stabs him. He's just like, all right, I'm a good man.
Yeah.
All right, I'm a man.
All right, I'm not that great. I mean, yeah, it's just, excuse me. Just, and you get to see a little bit of Anara's world.
Yeah.
Like, she puts up with so much, which is why she doesn't put up with anything from Mal, because she's not being paid to.
Yeah.
Like, draws a very dangerous line for any guy who works with a female that has flipped out on them. This is why. Because she's been holding back for so long, saying what she really wanted to, but couldn't because she was getting paid to not do that. And then she's fucking snapped.
There is that great moment to where like he's talking to her when she comes to the room trying to like teach him sword fighting. He says he calls her like a prostitute. He says something, he doesn't say whore, but he says something like that. And she's like, you'll smack him in the face for like calling me that, but then here you'll just like gladly say it. And I love his response is just like, essentially he doesn't say these words, but essentially it's like, but you know I don't mean it. Like he meant it. I don't mean it when I say this. You know me. Like, this is just who I am. That guy was insulting you.
Yeah.
I'm not insulting you, or at least I'm not attempting to.
That's what he believes. That is his truth for you. This is not my truth for you. Yeah, but honestly, it's something that needs to be said, you know, like if you're defending something, like maybe don't use those words that you take offense for other people using those words for. I mean, it's a case by case thing, but still, I love that moment. We also got some really great Mask of Zorro vibes during the instructions, which I loved because I love that movie. And I think it's the first time that we really get to see, well, maybe not the first time, but it's such a great look into Anara and Mal's relationship with it just being the two of them, because on the ship they're constantly surrounded by people. Like, you can never have a private conversation, and here just the two of them in his room late at night, and Anara's trying to teach him how to sword fight so he doesn't die the next day. Like, you really get to see just who they are as individuals and like together with no outside influence. And it was one of those things where I was like, I wish you two could work, but I know you can't.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about it too, is it's just like there's no one we have to pretend around. Like, I don't have to be hero captain. You don't have, like, you don't have to perform for anyone who's paying you. Like, this is just us. And they are incredible together. But that kind of leads into, I feel like, unless there's another episode, but we're all over the place because, guys, I know this is only the second episode, but this is Nerdy Joe Rogan. We just go all over the map, and it's just because we're having fun. Like, this show is essentially just two friends talking about a topic, because I love this. But my favorite Malcolm Reynolds moment, I think, has to come from Serenity, and it's the moment when it's the assassin, and he's just like, we can talk about this like civilized man. I'm not threatening you. I'm unarmed. Good. It is just so, I mean, that entire scene, like, I love when he's trying to just like push him, and the assassin's just like, Captain, you can't like, you can't like annoy me. And Nara's just like, spend an hour with him, and he's just like he just looks back at her like, all right, thanks for the backup there. just that entire scene is just incredible in that movie.
I think I don't know if I can pick a favorite Mal moment. I mean, there's, by my pretty floral bonnet is so wonderful.
You never used to treat me like this when we were first married.
She is wicked ugly. I mean, him getting married to what's her name? Christina Hendricks.
Yeah.
First of all, like the fact that they involved Christina Hendricks, like she is my heroine. I love her so dearly. She's amazing too. Like this entire, like not even just the core cast, but everybody that they bring onto this show is.
The characters are all great. They're so like she's incredible. Like in her first episode, she's trying to be this real meek and sweet, and then like she flips the dime, and the dime is flipped, and then the next time you see her, like I mean, literally the first scene when they see her, they both just draw guns on each other. Yeah. Like it's fantastic.
She's such a viper.
Oh, she's so great.
So perfect because she just pulls off that like helpless, please help me, sir. I am a weak female. While she's like got a dagger, like when she's got like a hairpin pulling out her hair, ready to like stab you in the back, and knows just where to stab you to make you bleed.
And that episode was also great for Anura because she's the first one to realize it. She's just like, wait a second, you're trying to play me. What is this? Like, she's like, what?
She's like, oh, you are good.
Well, but talking about his favorite secondary characters, he's in one scene, but Mal's friend who used to have the beard, just the way he screams out to her, I shaved my beard for you. Like just these, and that's what I love about this show, and I think that's why it has the fans like you and me, and I think that's also why it was never going to be like a Star Trek or something. I think it was, even if it was successful, and let's say it got like 5 seasons, I always feel like that's the small basis for a network show. It was never going to be a ratings darling. I think because it's a show made for a specific type of fan for these things. Because if you're like a hard-edged like sci-fi fan, like you love like Planet of the Apes and Deep Space Nine, all this stuff, you're not gonna like this because it's full of way too many jokes and winking to the camera. But if you have that sort of like referential humor and just like the self-deprecating humor and just like all that stuff whilst loving those things, this show is for you.
Well, I will say this. Serenity is basically everything that Joss Whedon wanted to do with season 2 and couldn't. So I think knowing that and knowing how they attacked like the whole, 2x2 Hands of Blue, the Reavers, and all of that, and like the fact that it was like a very sci-fi based storyline, I think that season 2 and 3 would have been heavily sci-fi based, or well, more so.
Reavers,
and it would have. One is kind of sci-fi based.
I mean, the Reavers, it's very, just as a Star Trek fan, it's very much like Borgish. Like it's very much, yeah.
It's a little more Dalek from Doctor Who.
Yeah, definitely.
Or like the Cybermen from Doctor Who, but it's still like
the Reavers are essentially it's just like any of those, just like autonomous, just like we can't figure for ourselves killers in sci-fi.
Right, but the horror behind it was that it was created by humans. Like that was something created by humans. It was supposed to be like a sedative, and it fucking destroyed humanity on that planet.
That's Sarah Paulson's speech, and then just not even the speech. I mean, it is to where she's just like holding back tears, talking about how just like they just like stopped caring. Like they knew they were dying. They knew they were dying, but they just couldn't do anything. And then at the very end, when the Reavers come in, it's the moment to where she first tries to shoot them, and then does not have the chance to shoot herself.
God, it's just so. I literally am getting chills because that move that part.
Hire an actress like Sarah Paulson, like you have those scenes where you're just like, we need someone who can just pull it. Sarah Paulson, that's it. You cast her, she'll be able to do this monologue in this moment, and it will sell the way you need to sell.
It was perfect, but I think that had they continued on, I think the sci-fi crowd, like the people who are like more drawn to that, would have come and like been like, oh, this is really fucking cool.
Well, I mean, first seasons are first seasons of any show,
Yeah.
I mean, it's that. I mean, you look at like the first season. My favorite TV show is The Office, the U.S. The first season, I tell people, if you've never seen the show, start with the second season because that's really kind of The Office everyone knows and loves. The first season has like Michael Scott's a gigantic asshole. Dwight is still weird, but he doesn't have the sweetness that he gets in the later seasons. The only thing that's really consistent between season 1 and 2 is Jim and Pam. That's the only consistent thing is John Krasinski and Jenna Fisher, how they play those characters.
Well, we could talk all day about The Office because I have theories on that as well.
Definitely another episode of the show.
I think one of the sweetest moments in surrounding Firefly, the whole existence, is the episode where Inara has an appointment with like this 22-year-old boy or something like that. Yeah. And like his dad wants her to make him a man, as if like inserting a penis into a vagina instantly makes you a grown-up. But spoilers, it doesn't. And she like literally takes the time to like, what?
I said I just jotted that down.
Yeah, just notes. But she literally like you see how much she cares about her clients and like what she does, because it's not just like laying there and like letting them fuck her, you know, like she's not like, that's not what it is. It's so much more. And she like guides him through like how important it is for a man to stand up for himself and like, you know, do what's right. And like, first of all, I just think that everybody's first time should be with somebody who knows what they're doing, because oh my God, the world would be such a better place. Secondly, that scene afterwards where he goes to confront his father and she like just walks, it's so perfect. I think that's one of the most like, it's one of the most clear scenes as to who Inara is.
For me, it's just, and this is just kind of who I am now and growing up and the teenager I was and the puberty hit me and the adult I turned into. It's the line to where she's talking to him and she's just like, I selected you. If it had been your father, I would have not selected him. Like that whole notion that she's just like, I want to be here for you. I'm not doing this for your dad. I'm doing this because I like you. And just she's
his father hires her. That's the whole thing. His father is the one who hires her for his son because he's like, you need to man up, which is stupid.
And he feels so weird about doing this. He's just like, I don't feel that this is right that he's paying you for this. And she's just like, look, it's okay. Like, it's, you know, this is my job. Like, this is what I do. It's such an incredible, and I think that's the thing is, and we've been saying this a lot, Whedon gave every character just, and you kind of see why they are this screwed up family that they are, is because every character has at the center of this great heart. Like they all in their own way. Like Jane, you go through a lot of crap, but the heart's down there. Zoe, she has her walls because she's just older, but her heart is a little bit more. Walsh wears his heart on his sleeve, as does Shepard, as does Simon. Now, well, Simon, at least when it comes to his sister, like his heart is literally just like, you know, just like when you know what the way left to like help her, you're like, yeah, your heart's on your sleeve. Mal, as we talked about, he has his walls up, but his heart's always like bashing through the walls. Anira, her heart's always out. Kaylee, I don't even think she has a switch to turn her heart off. Like, I don't think I think her
literally
walls don't have.
She literally wears her heart on her jumpsuit. Like, doesn't she have a heart? Like, that's.
Oh man, I adore this show and this cast, and that's why I think we said it, we said it only with Nathan Fillion, but I think legitimately you cast, like, people always do these fan recasts, but I can't think of anyone at the time who could have played any of these characters better than the actors they got to play them.
And not just like the main characters, like sorry, I'm looking at IMDb right now. Michael Fairman, who plays Adelia Niska, is freaking terrifying. Like, oh my God, he's the one that holds them up and like is like torturing them for information during war stories.
Well, he's the one who, his first scene, he has his nephew hanging in a meat locker. He's just like, my wife is going to be so angry with me.
It's my wife's sister's son. He's screwed. I gave him a job because she asked. It's just like, it's so chilling. It's just so good. And then, I mean, Summer Glau is just perfect. Like, she's so, like, River Tam is such a scared creature, and nervous, but yet she has like her flip side is like, she is on opposite ends of the
It
spectrum,
is.
and it is amazing to watch that.
It
Like,
really.
when you see the flip happen, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna sit back and watch.
And I knew her from Sarah Connor Chronicles, the Terminator show,
Right.
because I watched that and I thought she was a great actress. I thought she was really great in that. And so watching this, because I knew her obviously as like the Terminator, like I knew her as this like badass like machine in that show, and to watch this, like you get introduced to her and she's just like shivering scared, but you just have these moments where it's just like switch happens. I mean, there's that moment with Kaylee to where she's just like, no one can stop me or whatever. And then it's just like she's immediately back. I mean, but I think the best moment is it's when she thinks she's holding the wrench and then you pan around because they're all like, just put it down, River. Because you pan around, she's holding the gun. And it's just like, I love the framing of that scene, the other actors, and her, because she plays it as just like, hey, I'm just holding this like wrench. It's great. And they're all like, just River, put it down. Like, it's so great.
And it just goes to show you like how rich the storytelling was, because like she was 100% convinced because of her brainwashing that she was doing something completely different than what she was doing. And it's like, wow, they really gave her those mental blocks so that it try to protect her psyche, I guess. Like, it just goes like, it just builds up how devious of a big bad they had planned for season 2 to come out.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
the
like
Alliance.
right,
for
but like
whatever the Hands of Blue guys were, whoever they were.
2x2 Hands of Blue, yeah. But like, it's just one of those things that's like, the Alliance was just kind of like this over.
It was the Empire.
Like, yeah, it was like Empire. It was like, it's like, it's an evil, but it's not something that they deal with on a daily basis, versus Summer being fucked with and tested on and experimented on so much that it changes her into like this, she can be triggered by a freaking ad in a bar, so it kills everyone.
Talking about that, she literally just talking on her face. She just like, she's looking at the commercial. I think it's like of a cat or something, and it's just like immediately just like is doing kicks and flips, and again showing the way they balance drama comedy. It's just like where the brothers are just like, do you know her? And Malcolm's just like, yes. Like, it's that she's fantastic, and I mean I'm so upset that none of these actors really had the career that they should have, seeing how incredible they are in this show. Like, they are all fantastic.
I mean, Alan, I think Alan and
Alan
are the ones that got like the most out of it. But like Gina Torres, who plays Zoe, I'm pretty sure she was in like 1,001 sci-fi movies, which good for her, because that's kind of the genre that she can be in as like societally acceptable, because she is
to Morpheus, for crying out loud.
I mean, she is a tall, powerful African-American female, and not a lot of genres right for that. And she is perfect in the sci-fi. I think I even read an article one time when she was like, somebody asked her if she felt pigeonholed, and she's like, are you kidding me? I have a home here. Like, this is what I do. And I'm just like, oh, you're the best.
Well,
she's
and
just
it's
so
funny.
great.
You look at like Nathan Fillion, like he obviously like sadly didn't get to have, like, I mean, Lord, the man essentially played television's Han Solo, and he didn't get to have his Indiana Jones run. But like he's on this show on I think it's ABC called The Rookie.
Well, first he got Castle, and then he got
and Castle. But I saw someone who tried to, like, because they were advertising for this new season of The Rookie, and they tried to shit talk Nathan Fillion to where like this guy was like, I'm not going to say the reviewer's name because he actually ended up deleting the tweets because so many people came at him. I don't need to start fights with people, but I can tell you off air. But he was like, oh, so is this just like, so Nathan Fillion is just going to spend his career being like a really good dude who, even when jobs are shitty, he's just like good at heart? And it was like, is that a problem. He plays that extremely well. What? Like, yes,
Right?
we want him to be that. And he deleted the tweet after that because it was the dumbest, like, perspective on Nathan Fillion. Because if you watch him in any of these interviews or any of these conventions, he loves his fans and he loves just like being funny and just like he that heart that we talked about Malcolm.
Yeah.
That's Nathan Fillion just has that in his own. Like, I hope I get to meet him at a convention one day because
Yeah.
he seems like the most genuine guy who's just like, I love that I'm a part of like this cult show and I was a part of Castle. Like, I just love, like, literally just pull up any interviews with him. I mean, and he's just like, he's screwing with the interviewers, with the cameramen, just
Yeah.
like, not as like a, oh, I'm a douchebag, like Hollywood version.
No, he's just
like,
having fun.
He's like a kid in a candy store. He's just like, this is my job. I get to leave forever.
I think the worst,
I think the
worst, if I mean like worst, like the biggest jerk character he's ever played was in Waitress, and it was more pathetic than like evil, you know? And it was just like, he's just so good. I would love to sit down one day over a bourbon and a beer and just like have a chat with Nathan. It would be so, it would just make me so happy. I just want to hear all the stories about Firefly and Serenity.
I just want to hear. I've listened to so many stories. He talks about how he met Bruce Campbell, and it's just like the best story in the world.
Yeah,
like it just like I just love it. And when him and Alan Tudyk are together, it's wonderful.
It's magic.
It's magical.
It's wholesome
because they're just like, because obviously in the show he had to play, you know, like hard-edged Malcolm, but like when the cameras are off, he just gets to be Nathan with Alan Tudyk. And they just, it's a bromance that we were denied. We need a buddy cop movie with Nathan Fillion and Alan Tudyk. Make it happen, somebody.
I would watch the crap out of that movie. Like, I would need to buy like 3 Blu-rays because I know I'm gonna like just run them into the ground. I mean, I love it. This whole show is just, it has so much heart. It tells so much about society. Like, I mean, the guy who purchased Inara for his son, like, he's so toxic masculinity that it's like, this happens like thousands of years in the future and we still haven't gotten rid of that. Like, all right, great.
Well, I think even just talking about, like, you know, in the opening narration of the episodes past the pilot, to where it's either Shepard or Malcolm doing it, to where it talks about the fact that, like, our world got really screwed up, so we moved on to a new galaxy. When we did that, all the 1%ers created their own planets to where they had all the money and everything, and everyone else got forced back to the Old West, essentially. And it's just like, it's that thing of just like, the show does tackle those things that like we don't always like to talk about humanity, which is like, yeah, I can totally believe that if we move to a new solar system and all the planets were all livable, yeah, all the 1%ers would go to their own planet. They wouldn't want a middle class and below the 99 to be with them.
They would, because who would shine their shoes? Who would?
Well, but they bring those people in, but like most people, it's just like they prefer to just like, yeah, I'll go back to the Old West. I mean,
that's basically where River and Simon grew up. Like, their parents were very affluent. You know, I think that they were both. I think their dad was a surgeon, I believe. And then Simon followed in his footsteps, and River was like a child genius.
Yeah, she was a prodigy.
Yeah. So, you know, and they had like the means to help her, you know, do all this. It also, to her detriment, put her on the radar for.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things to where, like, you know, and again, and that's what I love about the show is I love that it doesn't, like, there's other, and I can't even think of one, but there are other shows and things where they just like will slap you over the head with this, but they just kind of put it out there, and it's just like, it makes you think, and that's, and something else, you know, I've been such a new fan of the show, and sort of just, you know, so obviously recently just being able to have these discussions, but I love like this, like this is one of those shows that I just love talking about because it's literally 14 episodes and a movie. That's it. And yet the conversations you're able to have with so many people I've been able on Twitter and friends of mine, on Facebook, or right now with Rachel, like just the stuff we can talk about. And I think, you talk about these shows and movies that, go on and Star Wars has been around for like 40 years. Star Trek has been around for like 60 years. And you even go back before that, there are stories of like King Arthur and Robin Hood and all this. And it's like, all those things share a central core of humanity, because that is something that never changes.
Mm-hmm.
That people, the things that we love about the heroes, like on Firefly, to where they have these hard edges, but they have these hearts. It's just like, that's something that we never don't want to have those stories of those heroes. We
want the redemption stories. We want to know that, as damaged people ourselves, that there are other damaged people out there that are still doing good. And like,
and that's the thing. And we also want good's always going to triumph over evil. We always want Luke Skywalker to best the Emperor. We always want King Arthur to be the one who pulls Excalibur. We always want Robin Hood to get the best of Prince John. And that is, with Serenity, they kind of give it to you, and they give it to you in a very realistic way. The assassin at the end is just like, they're gonna come back, and Malcolm's like, we'll be waiting for them, essentially. But that's what we want. We want the Serenity cruise. We want those stories to be there, because, look, guys, I'm not gonna get political, but like, the world's a shitty place sometimes. Like, turn on the news and just see it. No. Just see how bad it can be. And that's why I think, and this is a lot of what I want this, because I started the show and I called the Fan Podcast because I feel like so much, when you say fandom, it's always toxic. It's always, these people who just like attack over people. And I wanted to do this. I wanted to be able to talk about why we love these things. And I mean, you have someone who was around when the show first started and was watching it, and someone who just recently started. And yet, I mean, we've been over an hour just having this incredible conversation. I think that is the sign of just something. It taps into something powerful. And that's why I think Firefly is going to continue to find newer fans, and older fans are just going to welcome them with open arms. Like you said, Rachel, like you're no longer like, oh, you idiot, how have you not watched this? You're just like, oh, cool, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this.
You got so freaking wholesome on me, and I was so ready to talk about how excited I was for the introduction of Kaylee. I was like, oh, all right.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I got a little teary-eyed there. I was like, I love this show so much. And I was like, but I really want to talk about how Kaylee was discovered by Malcolm because she was fucking the guy that was hired to be the engineer and didn't see that there was a coupling thing. And the only reason why she saw it was because she was getting screwed on her back looking up at the engine.
Malcolm, you're not going to believe this, man. This girl, she gets hot when she's around engines. And then I just love to where he's just like, you want a job? I just have to ask my parents. He's like, wait, why do we need two mechanics, Malcolm?
It's like, we don't. You're fired.
We don't. You're fired. Oh, that episode, Out of Gas, is another one of my favorite episodes.
It just shows you the heart and like the drive and how much everybody cares about each other so much.
And it also, it what we've been talking about, it's also about heart of the show, is that end scene to where the guy's like, you have a good ship, you can take care of her, it will be there for you forever. And you're just, that is, in a weird way, that's the show. Like, you have this heart, you take care of this show, it's going to be there for you. I mean, I love, and again, like, that's just one of those, I love the editing to where it's like, you start that episode off and like, Malcolm's like, he literally falls and he's like bleeding. You're like, what's going on? And then you get the flashbacks of like everything that's been happening. Mm-hmm. And then you get the flashbacks of Malcolm essentially dying, just his life flashing before his eyes of just like meeting everybody. And it's so well. I mean, you get, again, but it's still fun. You get Jane's intro to where it's just like, we'll pay you double. And he's like, shoots the guy in the leg. You get your own room. He's like, all right. He's like, just the tune of the leg. It's so perfect.
It's so good. We haven't talked enough, I think, about Dr. Simon Tam. Simon is, I think Simon has the biggest balls out of all of them. Like, this guy steals River from the facility and puts her in cryo freeze and is trying to smuggle her back to his parents' house, lies to the crew. Like, who would, like, looking at this crew, who would fucking willing lie to them? Like, no.
And not only that, this was a guy who, like we were talking about, came from this world of the one percenters, of the rich and all this. He literally gave that life up, took every penny he had to get his sister back.
Mm-hmm. Like, and he was the only one who knew.
Because
nobody believed him, because
they have that episode to where it's even the episode of Serenity again. Sometimes there are moments where
I think it's Serenity where he's like reading the letters and
they're just like
being like, this is not her, like, this is not your daughter,
River, and they're just like, oh, Simon, like yeah, you're talking like, yeah, look, Zoe and Malcolm, obviously they were part of the Brown Coats, they have balls, you know. Jane was like a bounty hunter, he has balls, but like, it's not like Simon to where like, and the other thing is like, Simon did it for like, there was no personal benefit except getting his sister back. Like Zoe and Malcolm, them being browncoats doing that, I mean, that was fighting for a world they preferred to live in. You know, like
he was fighting for a cause, but he was fighting for a person.
Yeah, and it's just, and that's why I think Simon gets really shit on by some fans, and I don't get why. Like, I think the fans who shit on him I think they don't get what the character was about.
The way that he stands up to Mal continuously, because like Captain Mal doesn't, like, he's like, oh, River, whatever, like, she's just this quiet like girl that like stalks around the boat, like, you know. And then there's like Simon, who's the one who actively lied to him and put his crew at risk. So Mal is constantly watching Simon like a hawk to be like, if you fuck over my crew, I will kill you.
Yeah, and that's I do like that about Malcolm, is like, he doesn't blame her. He blames him. He's like, you were cryo frozen. I don't blame you because you screwed up and all this. I blame him for not telling me about this. And but he stands up. Like, there's so many times when he's like, you know, stitching a wound, and it's just like, oh, is this all I'm good for? He's just like, look, you're here, you're my doc, that's what you do. You patch up my crew. All right, go do your job.
I'm gonna trust you to be a doctor. That's what you're here to do. That's the only, like, and he knows that that's the reason why they are kept on the boat, because he agrees to be their doctor. Because of course, like, how do they not have a medic? Like, how do none of them know how to suture a wound? Like, honestly, with all the crap that they've been through, how is that possible?
Getting out of gas, Malcolm is able to kind of seal up his own wound for a time being. But again, I think Zoe and him, they have the knowledge of like,
right, they have like that immediate first care, but
they
like
have the short term. They have the short term, like, you can put like a tourniquet on and that holds over until the medic. But yeah, how have they not had a medic doing what they do? And especially like how much of an idiot Jane is, like. He probably has gotten shot several times. How did they not have a medic? If they had a medic, there would have been no need for Simon. It's one of those show things where it's just like, the circumstances are there because without it, the show doesn't exist.
Right, but still, it's one of those things where you're like, you guys are so responsible and everything else. Like, how did this slip through the cracks? Literally, to save your lives. But I do love every time that like that Simon does stand up, because he just seems like such a weak person. But then when you really look under the surface, like, he is so respectful. And like, I think that he really does love Kaylee. Like, he has this like affection for her, and like they have like actual real feelings, whereas Kaylee takes the more aggressive side of the pursuing of the relationship, whereas Simon is a little
hide it. Like, she tries hide, but she don't. Like, there's that great fight to wherever like it's her and Nara in the shop. She's just like, think Simon would like this? She's like, oh, why? You want to buy a gift for him? It's just like, she fakes she's being smooth, but it's like, no, you're not. Like, literally everyone knows. Except for Simon, because apparently he spent all those years in medical school and didn't pick up on women, I guess. And by that, I don't mean he picked up on, I mean there's signals. He did not learn those. That's what I meant. I think from someone like that, I get it.
I think one of the sweetest relationships that we get to see is between Wash and Kaylee.
Yeah.
especially during that one episode. Which one was it? Heart of Gold.
Yeah.
When they're at the brothel,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Am I pretty?" He goes, "Were I not married, I'd take you in a manly fashion. Because I'm pretty, because you're pretty." Like, it's just,
Well,
it's
because
such
they're
a
the least hard
thing.
edged of anyone on that ship. They're the least hard edged, so obviously they would be here. And I love that moment to where he's just like, if I
But
wasn't married, sex. Like,
it's such like a great like male female best friend situation, and be like, dude, just tell me I'm pretty.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, I honestly, to me, I guess, because I think, because maybe that's how I look at my friends. I look at my family. I was looking at the more as like non creepy uncle and niece of just like, you're really
yeah,
sweet. I'm gonna watch out for you. I'm gonna take care of you because your dad Malcolm is he's a vet and he's all screwed up because of the war. But so Uncle Walsh is here to be because your aunt Zoe is also hard edged. So you need me.
that would have been. I don't think we got any Kaylee Zoe like one-on-one interactions, and I think that I would have loved to see that,
I
just to
can't.
see Zoe like teach Kaylee like how to gut a man or something like that, and like see Kaylee like teach Zoe how to like fix a carburetor. Like, I think it would have been fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I think that would have been honestly. I think the engineering would have been great if she's like, okay, so what do I do here? And just like, no, no, you put this here. It's just like,
Like,
and
you
you
mean
could
like when
even,
Mal tried to help her and she was like, just stop, just put things down and go away.
and you just have Mal just
And
sitting
he
there like,
was.
I used to have Mal with like an apple, just like, oh no, this is really fun for me. It's educational, Zoe. Like just watching in the corner. Him and Walsh, I could just imagine just like, no, this is really fun.
Yeah. But
I had to correct
I think
myself because originally when I was talking about Mally and the apple, I was doing it normal. I'm like, no. Him and Zoe, they always have to cut their
yeah,
apples with a
they
knife.
have their knives. Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things about Mal is that like not only does he love the people that he hires and that is on the boat, but he also trusts them implicitly.
Yes.
Like he doesn't try, like when Kaylee's trying to fix the engine and he's trying to help her and he's just making it worse, and she's just like, "Oh my god, put everything down and go away. Like, stop and go." And he's like, "Okay, I'm sorry." Like, because he knows that she knows what she's doing, and like when it comes to guns, he's going to go talk to Jane, and when, you know, he's bleeding internally, he's going to go talk to Simon.
He has those beliefs, and I also think that he genuinely does, for as hard edge as he is. I mean, Shindig's a great example of he just like, they're out and she's looking at the dress. He's just like, what would you need a dress like that for? But then he goes and he buys the dress and he takes her to this like this
Well,
ball.
to be fair, he didn't just take her to the ball. He needed to front because they were looking for a heist. But like the fact that he bought the dress for her and like and everything. And honestly, the best scene of that entire episode is the very end with the dress hanging up in Zoe's bunk, and she's just sitting back eating an apple, looking at it. Like
looking at it.
It's like every girl has that dress. Every
yeah.
single girl has that dress that they'll just put up and be like, "Oh, it's so pretty. Remember how hot I looked in that?" And then
wore
the back and like Cheetos.
My sister had a dress. I swear to you, the dress she wore to her sweet 16 for the longest time just hung on the back of her door. Never wore it again. She wore it the one time, and it was just always there. It was just always there. We don't really have that, I guess, as guys, because I had to only of recent have to get a new suit jacket because I just wore the same suit jacket to every event ever. And then I grew out of it. It was like a
well, I don't think guys enjoy dressing up and going out as much as girls do. Like, it's a whole day. We have plans. We have spreadsheets.
No, that's true.
And, like,
I mean,
time cards. We make
it. Really dressing up. This is the guy who has an entire Malcolm Reynolds costume in his closet that he can put on at a moment's notice.
Most guys do not enjoy them.
Yeah, no, I love Kaylee. She's great, and her and Walsh are just like the sweetest. Well, okay, her, Walsh, and Shepherd Book, because Shepherd Book is also. So I mean, he is like
grandpa. He's grandpa.
He's grandpa. He's grandpa. And I don't know everyone's, how they grew up, but I grew up with only one grandpa because my dad's dad passed away a couple months after I was born, so I got to meet him, but I never got to know him. But like, I talked about him earlier. Like when my grandpa learned that I love, I mean, I guess I'll tell this story just because I love the story about him. So my grandmother, she got hip surgery or something, and then they lived in Queens, and I live out on Long Island, and they were but she got the surgery out here. I guess the surgeon was out here or whatever, and so her rehab was here, and her grandpa was staying with us at the time. And I was in third grade when this happened, and I always remember this because third grade was the first time I ever got sick, like at school. Like I had stomach virus, but I went to school and then I got sent home early, which is a concept I never knew. I was just used to like go to school, you come home. So Grandpa would always come and he would bring, I tell you, just a shopping bag of just like, I mean, he's how I first saw Tombstone with Kurt Russell. Like everything, like he loved Indiana Jones because it was a guy wearing like a cowboy hat, like everything, and it was in this bag. And we would watch his Gunsmoke and Bonanza DVDs. Like that's what I would do as a kid when he would stay over, which that's what we would do. And so one day I faked being sick, and I got home because my mom took me home, and I immediately go to our guest room to where he was staying. And he wasn't there because my grandpa was such a great guy. He was with my grandmother until visiting hours were over. And I was like, oh shit. And my mom immediately knew. She was like, oh, I see why you were sick now. Okay. But
So,
she didn't take me back.
what you're saying is your grandfather Princess Brided all of your Westerns for you.
He did. I think he was just, because my uncles were never really into that stuff. So I think me and my grandfather were really close. So I think he just kind of lucked out that like there's one person that was just like kind of like him with this stuff. And because I'm such a history buff, he was a World War II vet. He would tell me stories. He was a merchant marine because he had a thing with his eyes, so they wouldn't let him fully enlist. That was the best he could get. Mm-hmm. And honestly, fuck the U.S. military, because for the longest time they wouldn't recognize him or any merchant marines as veterans.
Yeah,
it took a very long time. I tell you, my grandfather was not allowed to march in any veterans parades for many years because merchant marines were not recognized as vets. Fuck you guys. They finally did,
but they corrected it. So
they did. But
it just took longer than it should have.
He was my shepherd book. Like he was, and again, I think, like I lucked out that I had that, but there are some people, like a lot of people on that ship who clearly didn't have that figure in their lives, and Shepherd Book filled that. And he just like, and again, like even when she goes in and she completely like takes his Bible and like says this is wrong, like with a pen, he doesn't go, you freaking idiot. He's just like, no, well, according to the book, this is correct. So give me that and don't do that again. I mean, but the best moment between him and River is when he's about to take his shower and hears her screaming, and he's undid his ponytail. He's got Albert Einstein. And she freaks out.
It's just such a sweet and innocent thing that like you wouldn't even expect to happen or for them to address. And like it's just such a pure moment, and it's so small. But like
he doesn't do it, and then I think Zoe is
how
just like
sheltered and sad River's upbringing was, because she was with, she got taken away so young to like be raised as like a child prodigy, that like she never really had a childhood, which is why I think it's, can't remember which one, but when they're shopping at the general store, and she's getting so excited about like these toys and stuff around her because she never had them growing up. It's like equally adorable and heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time.
So when she finds the like party that's going on, and they're all like square dancing, she's just like, she didn't have that growing up, or at least she had it for a very short amount of time before she got sent away.
Yeah,
because I'm sure what happened when she had kind of a short childhood, and then they realized she's super smart, and they were like, well, time to go off to private school with all the other smart children. And then from private school,
I think she got recruited. I don't think she got sent away. I don't think her parents.
Regardless, I mean, her parents had a decision to send her to that.
Right, but they didn't know. Like, everybody was getting lied to.
Yeah, that's what they all say. Yeah, okay.
No, I liked her parents. I think that they were just.
I think they were. I think they were just, you can just, I feel like on those planets, it's just like every person who's there, it's just like generations of old money, and that's just they're just used to like, hey, the Alliance says it's okay, then it's okay. They've never done us wrong.
Yeah.
They've never wronged us. Why should we believe that they would wrong us? Because I'm sure Simon and River's parents grew up with stories about like the brown coats were these, well, they didn't grow up obviously because Malcolm is, but like they probably knew stories of just like the brown coats are just like these disgusting evil people who just like try to screw us. I mean, you have that, I think it's Train Heist, that opening scene in the bar where it's Unification Day.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And he just like he starts the fight with the guys. And I love at first, well, because first it's Zoe and they're just like, Jane, he's just like, what? I didn't fight in any war. Sitting back with his drink. And then I also love just the small thing of they throw Malcolm, which is just such a classic, like you have the saloon fight, a guy gets tossed from a window, but it's just that small thing of just like the window's a hologram. So there's no glass.
Nothing gets broken. It's
so perfect. I mean, they have in another episode when they're playing pool, and that's holographic as well. And then you have the sign to where it's just like we're not responsible for it getting screwed up.
For like, glitchy games, yeah.
Little touches like that, I just love. I'm just like that opening scene is such a classic. I mean, I was just watching A Fistful of Dollars last night, and there's the fight in the saloon between the man with no name and all the guys, and it's just like that's just classic Western stuff, but with those little touches of just like, oh, it's a hologram window.
I don't think that there's one Western that I've ever seen that doesn't have a fight in a saloon. Like, honestly, like it happens at least once in every movie. Well, it may not be a full-out brawl, but there's at least one punch that gets thrown in the saloon.
There's always something that goes.
I mean, even in A Million Ways to Die in the West, there's still like they make it such like a great moment in that movie.
That movie's especially as a Western.
I love that movie.
Well, I think my favorite thing about that movie was Seth MacFarlane described it as he essentially made a John Hughes movie, but he set in the Old West, because all John Hughes movies are just like, man, my town sucks. And he's like, he did that just in the Old West where like, yeah, the town really did suck. Like people die from their own farts. Look at that out there. That is our mayor. He died 3 days ago. And no one has looked into his death. No one has figured out replace last 3 days. The highest ranking member of our town has been a dead guy. Oh, look, right there. Wolf's taking him away just to prove my point. Bye, Mr. Mayor. Have fun being wolf shit.
Fuck this place.
I clearly watched that movie so many times. I
just wanted to do Peyote in the Desert with Seth MacFarlane and Charlize Theron. Like I just want it, or get stoned out there with them. I think that would be amazing.
Mila Kunis.
I'm a nerd. It's just such a perfect movie. But like, yeah, I mean, anything that takes Westerns and like genres and spins it on their head, like Firefly and Serenity do, like I think that it's just done so well with so much care, like with those details, like with the pool table and the window being holograms, and them addressing, like personal hygiene and stuff like that on like because they constantly rag on Jane and it's so great and so wonderful. And I wish that they could bring it back for a season, but like it's kind of one of those like beautiful, perfect moments in time.
Well, I haven't read the comic books. There's comic books that continue the story. I haven't read them. I want to read them because I feel like that's the best way to continue it, is because like we don't have to deal with like, oh, it's 10 years later, and we also don't have to deal with Walsh being dead and all this, because those comics can literally be set any time before Serenity. Like, and that you can have, because we essentially never get told like how long it is between, at least in the movie, it's not like, oh, this is set 2 years after the final episode of Serenity, so you just have like so many episodes. I'm looking forward to that.
The death of Wash affected me in such a visceral
way. Let's talk about that.
It still hurts. There's that Like I literally have a tattoo of it's in Circle Gallifreyan, but it says "I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar." Um, I love the character of Wash so much. I think I just love his outlook on life, his deep and unabiding love for his wife, his loyalty to the crew and to Mal. Um, but his death really fucking hurt.
It,
And
it,
I know that there was this whole storyline that Joss wanted to continue on into the next season. Was that after Wash had died, Zoe finds out that she's pregnant,
oh,
and I'm
God.
like, oh my god, why?
Oh, thank God they didn't do that.
No, I'm so. I mean, I wish that they had, because then a little piece of Wash would have continued, and it would have been the most beautiful child. Oh my god.
It's one of
Um,
those things where it's like, I know why you did it, but I didn't want you to do it. And like, I mean, after I saw Serenity, I was sitting there, I was a little annoyed about it because I was like, why Walsh? Because I was like, you killed Shepherd Book, and that already could have been seen as like, that's, I mean, because you have After that, which is an incredible scene between them where he's dying and he's just like, he's literally just like Malcolm, like, and just Malcolm cracks. And it's the moment to where there's the one Alliance dude who's still in the ship, and he's talking to them about how they're turning the ship to Reaver ship, and he just sees the dude, he walks past and just shoots the guy, asks no questions, and it's just like, anyone who doesn't want to come with me, your port's here. Like, this is what we're doing because this is it. I'm done with this.
yeah,
Serenity is an incredible movie.
it
Like,
really is.
so it's such the perfect cap. Like, obviously none of us, and it's funny, I don't had, he still is a person. I have a friend, Michael, who he's a big Firefly fan. Like, he watched it when it aired and all this, and he's a big Star Trek fan too. So when he saw Serenity, he was thinking he was getting Star Trek the motion picture,
Oh,
but he got on Discover Country.
yeah.
Like, he thought that made sense, that it was going to be the start of, oh, it was going to continue films, and then it was the end of it. And so at first he was a little annoyed. He now really likes the movie. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I can understand that, because as a Star Trek fan too, and especially when you look at the trailer, it doesn't make you think that it's not going to be like that. That's just like, oh, this is the start of a whole, but it's such a solid film, and it just does everything great. And when you get to the end, it's like, I mean, when they're fighting to save themselves, and the Reavers just come in, and you have Malcolm just like literally getting the shit kicked out of him by a guy who is superior to him in every way, shape, or form, except for one thing, which is the assassin's fighting for it because it's orders. Malcolm's fighting with his heart, and that's what is the thing that allows him to persevere and win. That, and also the fact that his nerve got moved, which is such a great badass moment, to where, like, because you saw, like, early in the movie, you saw the assassin do that move to where he like hits the dude's nerve, and then so you were like, oh god, and then he just like knocks the dude down. It's just like,
such a great callback, because I think it's mentioned in like one of the earliest episodes.
They got a piece of shrapnel in him.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, that nerve cluster had to get moved. But it's like, it's such a throwaway line in an earlier in an early episode. Now, like, I don't even think it's in the movie. I think it's in like episode like 3 or 4, and it's just like, oh, you called back to an episode that was 6 years ago. Like, what? It's so perfectly done. I think the only issue that I had, like, when the movie first came out, I was like, I hope that they treat this well, but also, like, I think that the movie was just cleaner. It felt a little like they had taken the TV show and like washed away a little of the grit.
Yeah.
And like made it, and no pun intended, made it a little shiny.
I think I'm gonna chalk that up to, it was Joss Whedon's first film, and he was jumping from TV to film, and so I think it was that sort of thing of just like TV and just shooting TV and shooting film are actually, I mean, nowadays kind of the line's more blurred with like Game of Thrones and Stranger Things and stuff like that, but I think particularly in early aughts there was still that like divide between like DPs for TV and DPs for film. So I think honestly, if anything, I would chalk it up to that Josh just didn't really know
Yeah.
how to do it, and that's fine.
I mean,
But I do agree.
I don't know if he didn't know. I just think that he was like, "This is how I've always wanted to make a
Or
movie."
that is true too. Yeah, now
Because
it's like,
if you look at Serenity and then you look at everything that he's made after that, like you can tell that that is a Joss Whedon film,
yeah, no, oh,
like
without question.
100%.
Yeah,
But no, I mean, but looking at it now, I'm just like, I'm just so grateful that it exists because we get to go back and revisit this crew whenever we want.
I agree, and I hate to do this, but I think considering we're at an hour 32, I think I have to now ask the question: do you have any final thoughts on Firefly, Rachel?
I'm so in love with it. Thank you, Joss Whedon, for giving us this amazing world to live in and hiring all of the most perfect actors for all of this. Like, I don't think that there's one character or one flaw that has existed in this movie that you've given to these characters that is imperfect. It's just so fucking beautiful. And I just want all of it. Just, I wish we could have gotten more of it, but you know, I'm so grateful for what we got. And everybody needs to watch this. Give yourself and just indulge.
For me, as someone who is a recent fan of just last September, I say if you have not seen Firefly and you have Hulu, it's on Hulu. Go check it out. Go find Serenity. Rent it if you have to. It is an incredible show. If this conversation, if you had not seen Firefly and you listened to this conversation, I hope we've convinced. We spoiled a shitload of it, but
there's so much that we haven't even
so much
touched
we didn't even
about.
talk about. But it's such an incredible show that I think, like when I got really sappy about it, like it just has those things that we all love, the things that like Star Wars and Star Trek and all these things that we all love. It's in here, but it's not a copy of those. It's its own thing that stands on its own. And if there's one thing to end on, I think I'll end on this line, which is, you got a job, we can do it. Don't much care what it is. So Rachel, where can the good people find you? Because you do a lot out on the interweb.
I do. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RM Silvestrini. I have a Patreon. Just search my name, Rachel Silvestrini. It'll pop right up. We do some really fun things. I do a hangout at the end of every month called the Golden Day, where we just get to sit back and hang out and talk whatever you guys want to. It's always a blast. I'm doing watch-alongs as well. So every month is going to be a different theme. I'm still trying to figure out what February's is. Because I don't want to. I mean, that would be great, but I don't want to go around like I want us to do something with the month that we're in. I don't want to do. I don't want to.
Firefly February.
I don't want to do a love story. Like I just don't want to do that because I'm also not that girl.
I celebrate Valentine's Day like Han style, solo.
I mean, same. Yeah. I mean, if I'm feeling masochistic, I'll pop in "P.S. I love you" and just cry. Because I'll never get to make out with not even one, but not even any of the three of the beautiful men that she gets to kiss in that movie.
I mean, I watched the Terminator on Valentine's Day.
That's a love story. It's fine.
Yeah, I know.
And then you can find me on Tuesdays. I do a Zoe's Extraordinary playlist show called The Rewind. The last few weeks we've gotten some amazing guests. We've gotten the creator, and then last week I don't even know when this is airing, but we had Andrew Leeds and Sean Astin or Skylar Astin and Kapil on from the show. It was massively surprise guests. So we're continuing on. I know they're going into a break, but as soon as they come back from break, we'll be coming back for that show as well. And then every Thursday I have Movies, Music, and Mayhem, where I interview friends and colleagues and rock stars and amazing human beings. We just get to sit down and shoot the shit and talk literally about movies, music, and the mayhem of life. So come hang out. And then you can find me everywhere. Just search me. I'm usually around.
She's also in the Schmodown. She failed to promote that.
Well, we're still waiting to see when that's going to happen. But yes, guys, subscribe to the Schmoedown. It's amazing. It's so much fun, and I get to like. It's the reason why I've met people like Maddie here. Like this, we never would have connected and shared this love of Firefly
I
had
was
we not.
supposed to be her manager, but then that didn't happen. I was supposed to be her and Janine's manager, but oh no, he lived on the East Coast. I was gonna. Oh, but now it's all on Twitch, so now it's okay. All right, fine, whatever. I see.
It's fine.
Whatever. You guys can always find me at Kearns_Matthew on Twitter, MattMovies611 on YouTube and WordPress. I'm gonna start writing there a lot more. You can also find me on Patreon at the same thing as my Twitter at Kearns_Matthew. So if you like what I produce and you want to give me money to do it, you be the first. And you can also find me right here as host of not one but two shows. First up is Second Look, which is pretty sporadic now since I started doing this show, which hopefully I'm in a flow that I can get one of these out a month. Cross fingers. And you can find this show all the time. You can find the video feed right here on Take 3. If you're listening to this on Anchor, you can find me on Anchor, Spotify, all the things except for Apple. I'm not on Apple. Sorry about that. So if you are listening to me, go subscribe to Take 3. If you like to have your podcast, if you don't want to see my ugly mug, cool, go to Anchor and you can just listen to me. This has been an incredible show. I love this so much. Rachel, I really want to thank you for coming on and talking about this. And I really think there's nothing else to say, so we're just going to let Sunny Rhodes take us out.
Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot stand. I don't care. I'm